Sometimes I trade stories for questions, and AMJPiece asked me, have you ever had an experience that, after it was over, made you realize how brave you are? Brave or foolish? I was in London. I had some time to kill. I was going to be meeting a friend in Piccadilly Circus, and I was early. So I went into a coffee shop. It was rather deserted. It was one of those kinds of places where you get your food and then you stand at a table and eat it. So I got a sandwich or something. I was eating it, and I noticed there were a bunch of young fellows standing off to the side. They were dark and swarthy and very handsome, I thought. And I noticed that they were checking me out, too. I was in my 40s, I guess, so it didn't happen all that often. And one of them in particular, quite good looking, I noticed him because he was wearing gray velvet pants, beautiful trousers. I finished my sandwich, went out, and I still had about a half an hour, so I walked down a narrow street and was looking in bookstalls. After a while, I noticed those gray velvet trousers. They were always within sight. The other side of the street, my side of the street, but back a quarter of a block. Nearby, but not too near. I went into a bookstore. I remember picking up a copy of Emma and going into the store. I glanced down at my purse and I saw that it was open and my wallet was gone. I looked around, and look as I may, there were no gray velvet trousers in sight. So I figured it out pretty quickly what had happened, and finally got my vanity in hand and realized I'd been a sitting pigeon. So I went back to the coffee shop. I stormed into the shop, and there were the gray velvet trousers with 3 or 4 of the other guys and an older man. I went storming over. I grabbed the arm of the man in the trousers and said, "Give me back my wallet." He looked at me very blankly, like he didn't speak any English. And none of them at that moment seemed to speak any English. The older man stepped in. He was going to facilitate this. I hadn't yet realized that he probably had the wallet at that very moment. So he said, "Well, we don't, what do you mean he has your wallet? He's been here drinking tea." And I said, "That's not true." Then I just sort of bluffed it and I said, "I know he has my wallet. I saw him take it." Then there was a lot of talking between the two of them. I couldn't understand what they were saying. And the older man said, "Well, fine, if you think he took your wallet, we'll call the police. Let's call the police." I said, "Fine, let's call the police." And so I was still holding on to this man's arm, and we walked out of the shop out onto the bustle of Piccadilly Circus. And we were looking for policemen and calling out for policemen, and I let go of the man's arm, and he was off like a gazelle. I went running after him and screaming out, "Stop, thief!" Something I always thought would be fun to say, just like in the movies. And a crowd of people started following behind me. I was faster than them all, though, and I was following this guy. He'd dart down a street, and then he'd run around a corner, and I'd dash after him. Finally, I went round a corner, and there, stacked high, was a pile of people, bobbies. He was on the bottom. Of course, he didn't have the wallet. He had already passed it to the older man, no doubt. When I met my friend and I told him what had happened, he was horrified. He said, you know, you could have been attacked. You could have been stabbed. Anything, that was a ridiculous thing for you to do. I was very sorely reprimanded. He probably thought it was foolish, and it was foolish, no doubt. I wasn't thinking about whether I was foolish or brave. I was just doing what had to be done. Maybe lots of brave acts are like that. You just do what you have to do. Afterwards you think, oh, how brave.